Welcome back to another episode of The Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, associate, family member, a media or otherwise, a colleague, an enemy, anyone in between. I appreciate it all. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get it moving. Apologies, video should have probably come out a lot earlier on today. There was a couple things that has come out over the last couple of days. So look, two big topics. I was going to do two separate videos on them, but ultimately I want to try and put everything into this one, and I want a bit of feedback from you guys in the comments as well as your comments on the video itself in general. So yeah, please do that, and we'll keep it moving onto those topics. There's a lot to get into. I've got a lot of thoughts, so without further ado, let's get into it. Amir Khan tested positive for Ostering last year, April. So April 2022, and it came out on, what day are we on now? Wednesday. So would have been, I heard about it late on Monday night, but it came out officially I think Tuesday morning. Now at that same time, Tuesday morning, there was a press conference for the announcement of Lawrence Okolie versus Chris Billam-Smith for the WBO cruiserweight title. And I was at the press conference to announce that, and I spoke to a couple of people about that fight on behalf of Undefeated Podcast. So shout out to them. I said I'd go down, see what I could dig up. So before I kind of get to my thoughts on this Amir Khan thing, have a look at some of the people I interviewed, what they sort of thought about this whole drug testing thing.
I don't understand it, because I fought Brad Pauls on the 11th of February. I had to do a UCAD test after the fight, and I've had my results back already, and it's like, it's 3rd of April today or something. I had that like 2 weeks ago, so how can I have mine so quick? And do you know what I mean? He must have had the results, surely. I don't know. I've got no answers for it. No one seems to know. Like they said, I've seen Ben Sham said he never knew. The board saying they only found out yesterday. Carl probably never knew. I don't get it, man. People need to know. If people are on drugs or whatever in the game, the least you need to do is know. But with the Conor Ben thing, that was all dragged out too long and everything, man. And I've got no answers for it, man. It stinks. It's no good, man.
Got to ask you about the news this morning about Amir Khan's failed test. You guys put out a statement saying you were only informed today. Why is that the case? Because surely you're on the same loop as UCAD, British Board and things like that.
You'd think so. Slightly embarrassed and baffled to find out via social media. We contract with VADA. VADA are a private organisation, and did the most rigorous testing we've ever done for any fight was that fight. It was ridiculous. They were tested out in Colorado, Fuerteventura, where Kel was training as well, back at home, fight week, fight night. But UCAD, to not be notified until this, you'll have to ask them. I did call Robert Smith straight away. I said, did you know about this? And he said, I found out yesterday. So what is going on in terms of communication? For me, it doesn't matter what the intention is, what the trace is. It's a strict liability thing. Clearly not finding out shows that sometimes it's just chaotic in what's going on. There has to be a uniform body, there has to be a world body. It's chaos. So as a promoter, to find out in this way, it is embarrassing. But as I say, people might not believe us. Well, go and ask UCA, go and ask the board, because we had no idea until finding out on social media.
Ben, with regards to obviously this failed test that's happened now, or this adverse finding, do you think there's now a bigger issue in terms of the testing, with the fact that, the Conor Ben thing took 5 weeks or whatever before it had any conclusion or preference? This one over a year before you find out anything. So does that make you more wary about even doing the testing, or what's going on when these testings taking place?
What it makes me realise is all the testing should be under one body. We shouldn't be going to VADA, board shouldn't be going to UCAD. Unify the whole thing. Rigorous testing, mandatory testing for all big fights across jurisdiction, worldwide, no loopholes, complete transparency, everyone sees it. I mean, how can we even be asking that 2023. It's just obvious. It's just simple. Every other sport has it. Boxing everyone needs to get together and completely rip this up. There's a lot of things wrong in boxing. That's probably top of the list. And anyone that argues otherwise and thinks that things should go ahead and when processes haven't been followed, I find that hard. I don't understand how anyone can't agree with what I'm saying right now.
I think the testing is the testing. It is what it is. If the substance is found in your system, that's it. Because it's not just boxing they deal with most sports, and that is their job. That's what they're going to do. I think how it's dealt with is the issue. How the punishment is laid out is the issue. Who the punishment is laid out to is the issue. So as I've said to everybody else, if you're fighting and you've got your team around you, you're fighting for a title, I'm going to say, right, who's on your team? Blah, 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 blah. Team, if he fails, the ban what he gets, you all get. So his team are going to be less inclined to think, well, it's because it affects their living for 2 years. They can't work with anybody else. The only name you're hearing is Conor Benn. The only name you're hearing is Amir Khan. You know, you telling me these men know what program to go on, what to take, what not to take. Somebody's telling them. And if they know they're doing it, they're not just letting down themselves, they're not just letting down their fans, but they're letting down their people that have worked around them. And those people that have worked around, if they think, nah, this ain't right, they're going to step out. So at the moment, the only name you hear is one name, and that's the fighter's name. So to stop this foolishness from going on, it's very simple. Everybody gets the same ban. Simple as.
So as you can see, there's some pretty strong opinions overall, but there's none that really delve into the minutiae of what's kind of gone on here. So here's how I kind of want to break it down. Now, speaking to someone there, and I don't want to mention their name, it's a really good guy, really integral part of, I guess, this this boxing journalism world. And I was told basically by this person that they knew about this test since last year, around about the end of April, the start of May. So the first thing they pretty much said to me and to some other people that was around at the time is like, you mean to tell me that little old me, who means absolutely nothing to nobody, got this information, but the head of the promotion didn't know? Now, okay, I understand the whole confidentiality and private everything until you have the hearing and only those who need to know, but put it this way, the boxing world, can't nobody keep a secret. The joke is the only time something is a secret is if two people know about it. Because if it's just one person, that's not a secret. Like two people have to know something for it to actually be a secret and be kept in that domain. In boxing, there is absolutely no time where any one person takes information all the way to the grave. They may not divulge everything, but they will give you enough to let you know that they know something you don't, because everything is about one-upsmanship. Now, in this case, if I'm going to take Ben Shalom at his word that he didn't know about the test until this morning, or yesterday morning, I guess technically, when it came out on social media or whatnot, there was definitely other people at Sky and Boxer who probably kept it away from him. 100%, because we've now established that when Robert Smith initially said to Ben, when Ben was on TalkSport, I only found out about this test this morning, I think the words ended up changing to I only found out about the results this morning, something along those lines. I think Robert Smith has come out and done an interview, said, well, no, I was made aware of some sort of finding, but I wasn't in the loop of what was going on due to privacy and confidentiality. Obviously, I was not allowed to speak on anything until a ruling had been made, and as such, I only found out about the results yesterday, a day before everyone else. Here's my issue with that. Okay, I understand if you have a confidentiality clause and whatnot and all this privacy. How is it that something that happened in April, that was flagged in April, because remember that fight happened in February, so that fight was flagged in April, but yet we're not even hearing about a ruling for the case until January, which is when apparently the case was heard. And then from January now to April is when all of a sudden the ruling comes out. How does it take you 8 months to schedule a hearing about a test under UCAD? See, if this was VADA, you could maybe make a case to say, oh well, ultimately, look, they don't acknowledge VADA. VADA is a private organization. They're not beholden to any specific body. They're not, like the national accredited agency for anti-doping or whatnot. They're their own internal private body. You hire them, they're private contractors, they give you the results and they move on, and whatever you do with them is whatever you do with them. In that case, you can choose to bury results. I can clearly see that that's a potential scenario. But this one, when it's the overall body that governs the sport, but yet you don't want people to know about this until now. Now, the only, and I actually say this in terms of the absolute best case scenario, the only way that you can even say that this is somewhat not outrageous is the fact that Amir Khan is no longer an active boxer. And I'm not talking about whether he took something or he didn't take something. The amount that was in that particular test is what they say is very circumspect. It's like a trace of a trace amount. And apparently there was multiple UCAD and VADA tests prior to that were, that came back clean. So I don't know how exactly you would then have that in your system to get down to that level without any other tests taking place beforehand. Unless you look at the fact he was like, well, I've been in camp 4 to 5 weeks and ain't been tested yet. Could there have been something maybe in the system from long before then? And when Ben Shalom says that they had rigorous VADA testing, maybe Amir just actually wasn't getting the tests? Or were UCAD not testing when they say they were testing? Like, how much testing took place? Because all we know is that VADA testing was asked for, but we don't know how many. We haven't been given a number of how many tests took place between either guy. So yeah, I mean, look, it's weird. The whole thing is very weird. The whole system seems extremely corrupt, and right now the BBBOC are not covering themselves in any glory whatsoever. And I don't even really want to bring this back to Conor Benn, but it now kind of leads credence as to this guy believing he's as innocent as he says he is, doesn't want to engage with these people. He clearly doesn't trust them to have his best interests at hand for whatever evidence he has or whatever he thinks has gone on, especially considering that the initial first test he failed for was through the clean boxing program, which he's already provided evidence towards, which had nothing to do with the BBBOC. But they're so adamant to have him stand before them for whatever particular reason, yet you've got practices like this going on where someone failed a test over a year ago and nobody knew about it, to the point where they had the rematch clause in place where he was considering maybe taking that rematch clause. All of a sudden, okay, so now I'm retired. Are you retired because you knew that this was ultimately going to come out and it looks better if you're retired? Maybe it doesn't come out, maybe no one leaks it if that's the case. There's so many different questions here. So I'm gonna need you guys to put your comments down below and let me know what you think of this whole situation as well. But ultimately, like, again, I'm not passing judgment on whether Amir did or didn't. I mean, he's had a clean history up until this point. Did he feel like he needed that one little edge for this last run? Highly plausible. Could it have been a contamination based on the trace amounts and the fact that supposedly he passed multiple VADA and UCAD tests prior to the fight? That, I guess, also has to be plausible, because you can't have a microscopic trace that size in a post-fight test if you took it before the fight, because it would have to be a significant amount. But yeah, like, the whole thing stinks. Like, the BBBOC have just been made to look even more shockingly inept than they pretty much were before. It throws a lot more questions now into their practices, and yeah, I just want to see how much energy this one as an overall takes, sort of takes shape in with regard to, previous tests, which now we won't continue to mention. Okay, so now we come to the very sad and unfortunate news that the super bantamweight title fight, the IBF title fight between Shanika Johnson and Ellie Scotney, has been removed from the Katie Taylor versus Chantelle Cameron undisputed title fight, which will be taking place on the 20th of May in Dublin, Ireland. Now, the reason for this essentially is Chantelle Cameron has said that she does not want to have Shane McGuigan, Barry McGuigan and that team, anyone I guess from Cyclone Promotions, in and around her on fight week or leading up to fight week. For those who don't know, she used to train with Shane and Barry and be managed by Cyclone back up until I think 2019, to which point she left them, citing that she wasn't being treated well. I think potentially was having money not paid to her that was owed to her, or was her money was being messed around, as well as not being treated right. Shane saying that he didn't, he had no time to train women and things of this nature. Now obviously subsequently that has definitely changed, as he is now training both Ellie Scotney and Caroline Dubois, and he's got Ellie Scotney up to her most basically the most important fight of her career, fighting for her very first title. Now let me get the proverbial and I guess the main stuff out of the way to begin with. Like, Ellie Scotney lives less than 5 minutes away from my house. We're both in and around, we're both from the same borough. Like I said, she's 5 minutes away. I'm very fond of Ellie, I'm very fond of her story, I'm very fond of her boxing skills. I just like her trajectory, and I know that she's going on to great things. And I think personally it's disgusting that sort of Chantelle would allow her personal issues with Ellie's team, bear in mind there's nothing to do with Ellie, but affect this other person's career. Now yes, obviously the fight hasn't been cancelled, it's been rescheduled to a later card, but if you're talking about ultimately this is the biggest time of your life, you don't want to necessarily be distracted by these people, or these people will make you lose focus. You don't want to be thinking about who's around, or gaining anxiety or whatever. Well, how do you think she now feels, knowing that she'd been training for this moment for so long? The chances are the fight's going to end up now being 2 or 3 weeks later, so that's disrupted her camp, potentially changed her monetary commitments up to the point of the fight and maybe beyond. Like, she now is going to feel somewhat victimized and penalized for a situation she didn't, she was not a part of, she didn't make, she didn't create, and now she feels bad. Outside of that, let me not even disrespect the fact that Sugar Neeks Johnson, who I believe is in the US at the moment, who's been training for the fight over in the US. Obviously, she's from Australia. So now, this now means that her plans are different. I would assume that they would have had pre-booked flights and accommodations and everything sorted out. Now, I don't know how much of that would have been subsidized before the fight, whether or not they get a complimentary offer of Matchroom. I don't particularly know, but her plans are now changed. If she's gone to America and is now renting out accommodation there, does she stay there another 2-3 weeks? Is she allowed to? What's the financial implications on her having to have the fight moved? And then if the fight does now get moved, it's ultimately going to be in the UK, I would assume, which means that now it's going to be on Ellie's home territory, whereas before it was in neutral ground. It was in Ireland. Ellie is not an Irish citizen, she doesn't have an Irish passport, neither does Shanika. It's neutral ground. It's the most neutral. The only other place you then would put it would be in America, or potentially the UAE when they go into Abu Dhabi. Maybe that one might suit Shanika Johnson a little better. The heat there will be comparable to the heat in America, comparable to the heat in Australia. That's neutral territory for the two of them. But again, even though they're accepting the women's thing, that maybe the women may not feel as if they're still going to be treated the way they want to be treated because of the culture of the country. There's just a lot going on there, and the whole thing just feels unnecessary. I mean, I'm pretty sure, look, if there was that many issues between Chantelle Cameron and Shane and Barry McGuigan and whatnot, then I'm sure there could have been provisions put in place to say that Shane McGuigan is only allowed at the media workout, and he has to do his work with Ellie. Maybe they have to go right at the start, do his work with Ellie, and then he has to leave as soon as. No interviews, nothing. He can't be in the same vicinity. On the day of the fights, obviously Chantelle will be in her changing room, whatever. He could be out in the ring doing the corner work with Ellie, and as soon as that fight's over, back to the changing rooms. There's no crossover. There's no can't be interactive, and I'm sure you can do something along those lines. Better yet, if there was a case that these were the issues that Chantelle had with these people from before, why was Eddie Hearn not told previously, or was he? And he still decided to put Ellie on the card. See, this is something I need to understand before I've really kind of let off certain kind of bullets here. But if Eddie knew that Chantelle had these issues with with Shane and Barry and whatnot, then that's a dickhead move on his part, putting them on the same card. But they've been on same cards before. Now, okay, and those cards, maybe Chantelle wasn't the headliner, but I'm sure she would have maybe made that known. And if she didn't make that known, then I feel like she's extremely out of order here, because you should have informed everyone prior to what's gone on about what's happened previously. Whether you can go into the details or whatever, fine, we understand that's not something you can necessarily always talk about. But the fact that, look, I have issues with these people, I don't feel comfortable around these people, I don't feel safe around them, please do not put me on cards where they're going to be around. And if that's the case, as soon as you say that, then you mitigate all those potential circumstances. So in terms of that, like I said, if she told Eddie from before and he's new and still willingly put Ellie on this card, then he's a dickhead for that. Sorry, he is. And that's poor management on his part, and I would definitely be looking at my promotional situation if that was the case and it was me. However, and I did say if, so I'm not saying directly he is, I'm saying if he knew. If he didn't know that Chantelle Cameron is out of order and should have been made everyone aware of this from before, so that these kind of things wouldn't have happened. Because now she's gone and shattered someone else's dream who had nothing to do with the situation, who wanted her moment on a specific card with real significance, because let's not forget Terry Harper's also on that card against the Celia Breakers. Like, this is a very big moment for women's boxing. It's another significant women's card where the women are headlining, and not just headlining, they're the co-main event, and even, you know, third from main as well. Like, it's just a big deal, and this is her big day. This is her big title shot, and now she has to be disrupted because what, you feel like you take precedent, even though you're the B side. If Chantelle was the A side in this situation, I could understand and say, alright, you know what, I get it. Like, this is all about you, this is your big moment. Now, yeah, this is the most important fight of your life, but unfortunately it coincides with the most important fight of her life as well, and you've just ruined that for her. You've ruined that moment, and even if she wins the belt wherever she goes next, it's not going to mean the same thing, because she had her heart set on it at this time. This was her moment. This is what she was building towards. Now her training schedule and everything has been disrupted. So there's a lot going on both sides on that, in which case, like, you know, I can't stand on. Now, let me go into why I actually think this has actually happened. There may be some of it that is to do with obviously Chantelle and her situation and the issue with, you know, Barry and Shane and how she was treated several years ago, but due to someone else who, again, I'm not going to mention just in case they don't particularly want me to mention them, but I was given some information a little earlier. I'm just going to kind of go over a little bit. Now, Chantelle has an unofficial advisor within her camp. You will see this person in several of her photos. When she won her undisputed title, they were there. They've been around a few other people. This person, their name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. And if you know anything about Anthony Fitzpatrick, he essentially is a very known associate of someone we're going to call Daniel K. But, you know, for those of you who know, who exactly that is. Now, this person dealt with a lot of the promotional ties for Daniel K from the Dublin and Ireland area. Now, essentially, where this becomes a bit tricky is, well, Daniel K and Barry McGuigan have issues, because Barry McGuigan testified in a court of law against Daniel K for various corrupt practices. To me, now there is no coincidence that the McGuigans are not supposed to be around, you know, Chantelle Cameron at this moment in time. It could partially be due to the history that's gone on before, but I more think it's to do with the fact, because it's in Ireland, and Daniel K is a very prominent member of Ireland, he has beef with the McGuigans for the practices that they employed, you know, in terms of law and whatnot. And just due to that fact, they've said, they can't come over here. And if that means that she can't fight because she needs him to be there, then she's got to go as well. And let's be honest, this person, Daniel K, has reach. They are not a small person. They have reach everywhere. So you more would probably say a promoter is going to look at that and say, you know what, is this a beef I want to inherit for the sake of her? Probably not. I mean, I might have money and power in a certain aspect, but their money and power and their reach dwarfs mine in other areas I'm not prepared to go into. So for that reason, I think that is the main reason behind why Ellie Scotney was kicked off of this card. Now, again, the other stuff could still be a part of it as well, and as I've said before, I think there was errors on both sides, both promotionally and in terms of Chantelle's camp, as to how that was handled personally. But if I have to venture a guess, it's primarily to do with the Daniel K situation and the McGuigan situation, as to why it's probably best for all parties involved that those people are not allowed to be in and around the venue. But yeah, look, that's my opinion. Whether I'm right or wrong, it's an educated guess, right? Okay, I'm not stating that anything I've said is factual. I'm speculating based on the information I have to hand. So please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. So again, sorry this video is out so late, but I will have some other stuff, maybe a bit more cheerful, to go over tomorrow, and Friday we'll be back with basis picks and a few other bits and pieces. But I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you very much for watching. For right now, it's the Hardcore Casual out.